everybody, and welcome to Behind the Curtain with Ade and Ron. It's been a while, Ade.
Yeah, it's been probably a month since we've done a podcast.
Yeah. And today we have a special guest. We have Rosi Pletzer. Grand Rising, Rosi, how are you?
Yeah, really well, thanks, Ron. Really well. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you, Rosi, for coming on. We're in 3 time zones, so we had a bit of an issue trying to work out the timing for everything. So thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so nice to meet you, and I'm just very excited to learn about Psyhc-K. Ron mentioned it before, and I don't know anything about it. So I'm coming to this fresh and open. Ron told me a little bit about it, and I feel like it's something that in my life I could really benefit from what the little knowledge I've kind of absorbed through the last few weeks about it. So, but we'd love to hear from you. And first of all, where are you? You're located in Australia, right?
I am in Canberra, which is the capital city, of Australia.
Okay. Yeah. How did you get? Well, where should we start? What led you to Psyhc-K and that modality of, would you call it a healing modality?
We actually don't call it a modality. We call it a set of processes that help you facilitate your own evolution. So because it's not used the same, but the processes are used the same, but really we're stepping into our own power. We're stepping into our own key or our own access to ourselves. So it's the magic's not in Psyhc-K, the magic's kind of in us, and we use Psyhc-K as a set of processes to access and facilitate that in our evolutionary journey of life, really.
Okay. Can you tell our audience, is there a way to explain what Psyhc-K is?
Sure. So it is, as I said, it's a set of processes. It's super simple, which I found a bit of a stumbling block when I first started because I was super complicated. So simplicity to me was a bit foreign. So it's a very simple set of processes. It is designed to create what we call a whole brain state, which means the left and the right hemispheres can respond in a united way to a situation or to a goal. We bring in the 3 parts of the mind to facilitate the processes. So we're always using the conscious mind to decide what it is we're wanting or to assess what it is we're not wanting and to lead us to what we would prefer instead. And then we're getting the permission, if you like, or the opening from the superconscious part of the mind that's going to allow the process to really work and evolve. And then we get the subconscious mind to join in to basically we're updating the subconscious patterns, beliefs, perceptions to the conscious desires and goals that we're actually wanting. So, the first 7 years of life we are encultured or programmed, not deliberately, but just by our environment and through our environment. And we take on beliefs that might serve us in that early part of life. But as we mature and evolve, those things that were keeping us safe and secure, if you like, become limitations in our more mature life. So we don't have the means to simply ask the subconscious to upgrade itself. We need a way of communicating with the subconscious mind, and Psyhc-K gives us that. And then we can evolve the subconscious mind. So it's really a beautiful dance, if you like, of upgrading and evolving. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. Excuse me. So in terms of, you had mentioned sort of aligning the subconscious mind with the wants of our conscious mind. Am I Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Under the umbrella of the superconscious mind. So we're uniting all three parts of the mind in the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of the wants, in some cases, how do we know what our true wants are? And what are, I was actually having this conversation with Ron the other day. Like, can our wants be fueled by our subconscious mind or part of the programming as well? Like, I want this because I grew up thinking that this is what I'm supposed to want, and it will make me more valuable or good enough or something like that.
Yeah, I think you've really hit on a good part of the process. But it's, of course, what we want is fueled often by our beliefs and perceptions also. So, we start with what we don't want, I guess, and what's not serving us, and then we look to how that could be instead, and then we formulate a want or a desire from that. And then we're going to check in with the superconscious part of the mind rather than the subconscious first to see if it's going to be appropriate in the bigger picture of our life. Is this actually something that is going to serve us moving forwards? And if it is, then great, we move on. If not, then it gives us that opportunity to pause and reflect on, what's this really about? Okay, I want this big house. I had a fellow that I facilitated a session with, and his want was a big house and more money, and which was fine.
Yeah.
But we weren't getting that it was appropriate. We weren't getting kind of the sign off. And when we dug a little bit deeper, I was saying, well, what's this really about? What's a big house? What's a big house about? And he said, actually, it's more about time with my family. I really want the space and the time with my family. So it wasn't about a big house at all. So then we really drifted off into this new, more profound and deeper want. And a truer, more authentic want, actually. And that's when we really made some headway. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So it could be sometimes we've got to dig deeper behind the surface of what we really want, because we might think we want something, but that's not the case.
Yeah, that what we want is kind of representative of something that's not actually materialistic. Often our wants are 3D, physical world kind of stuff, and actually, in truth, they represent something different. A desire to be safe or secure, or a desire to be more at one with nature and each other. So often our wants are very similar when you really start looking at those deeper wants. I think we're all very similar in some very profound ways. Yeah, we all want to be safe. We all want to be loved, accepted, belonging. We all want that deep connection. Yeah.
So the superconscious ones are not really material. They are more feeling of the basic human desires for feeling and connection and love then.
Yeah, sometimes they can be. The superconscious doesn't, I don't know if it's wants or whether it wants anything really. It's more like it's the governing mind that is going to give you that free will for sure. So do what you want. But is this going to be is this going to be appropriate in the bigger text of your life? Is this actually going to help you evolve and move forward in the way that would be optimum for you? So it's kind of giving you that reflection point of saying, this isn't going to be in the best interest for you, or this is going to be in the best interest for you. So you still get to choose and decide what you're wanting, of course, but I guess it's just that security, but the gatekeeper that says, this is going to really serve you moving forward, or this isn't. So maybe come back to that and assess what you're really wanting. So the superconscious mind is really the gatekeeper, allowing you or encouraging you to move forward or not. Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about the superconscious mind, like the difference between the superconscious, the conscious, and the subconscious?
Sure, I can easily speak about that. Yeah, it's most of us know the conscious mind. It's the volitional mind. It's the mind that can set goals and judge results. So, but it's fairly limited in its processing capacity, which is fine. It doesn't need to have unlimited processing capacity. Then the subconscious mind is the habitual mind. It governs the processes of the body, so we don't have to think about breathing or digesting. The subconscious mind governs all of that, so it can do multitask. It's a multitasking mind, but it's really a tape recorder. It's not the thinking mind. It's really just playing the programs that have been downloaded into that part of the mind. It's got a vast processing capacity. So, in comparison to the conscious mind, 1,000,000 times greater processing capacity. So it's capable of doing a lot more, I guess, processing a lot more. Whereas the superconscious mind is unlimited. And there's so many different ways we could define the superconscious mind depending upon our understanding. You can call it whatever you like. You could call it your greater self, your higher self, if you like. You could call it the greater field that we're all part of. People will have a different understanding of the superconscious mind, but it is really the greater field of which we all exist. That's my definition of the superconscious mind. It's the mind that knows everything, really, that can see everything in the greater aspect of our life. So, yeah, you call it spirit, you call it my inner CEO, whatever resonates with you, but has that similar understanding of the vastness and unlimitlessness of it, the limitlessness of it. Yeah.
And could someone do this work that maybe has a hard time with the idea of the superconscious mind? Maybe they're a hardcore materialist or something of that nature.
Sure. That Psyhc-K will meet you wherever you are in life, and it's not reliant on how you're perceiving the world at this point in time. So it will meet. It's beautiful because it meets you where you are. So if your understanding of the superconscious mind is that it's you on your best day, it will still work. So it really is up to you how you want to define that. Yeah, I had a group of people that were very corporate, and we just called it their inner CEO, and that worked really well. Yeah. So simple answer, yes.
Yeah.
What have you discovered in working with groups? Because when I was with you, we had different people from all over the world. Coming from different viewpoints. So what have you learned about teaching with different groups of people? Different languages, different cultures.
Okay. It's awesome. I love it because what I've learned so much. It's so much. I couldn't fit it into a period of time, the amount of stuff that I've learned, and I continue to learn. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that you're not right and I'm not right. We just have different perceptions at the time, and perceptions are evolving all the time. And I'm lucky enough to see some people run in one group and then see them again 2 years later for a different workshop. And it's like I'm meeting a different person. So it's really, I guess I've learned that people are absolutely capable of change. So, when they say a leopard can't change its spots, so I totally disagree. I think people can change, absolutely, because I've seen it, I've witnessed it, experienced it. So I see the absolute possibility of change. I see that all I've got to do is stay curious and be willing to accept other people's perception and other people's point of view. And if we just have that respect and curiosity, we can all get on. That it's an amazing coming together of people in a group that are learning Psyhc-K, because they're all there with the common want of wanting to create some change in some aspect of their life. And it could be that there's something quite challenging going on in life, or it could be simply that they want to get better at something, and it could be an athlete who are wanting to get better at their chosen sport, or a musician trying to get better at their musician, or it could be somebody who's on a spiritual journey who's wanting to really fast track their spiritual growth and evolution. And it could be somebody who's struggling with money and just can't seem to break through a threshold. And all these people are in the same group, learning the same set of processes for a whole lot of different goals. It's kind of beautiful. Yeah.
So as part of the way that the process works is you guide someone in, or they go within and somehow get in touch of some of those core beliefs or programming that's running their actions and behavior in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, so it's I guess identifying what you're not wanting. So absolutely some behavior that you're acting out, and consciously you don't want to be doing that, and you just keep on doing it. It's like your conscious 40 bits per second processing capacity keeps butting up against that habitual 40 million bits per second processing capacity. That just overtakes you. So it's a subconscious mind just rolling out the program, and the conscious mind just butting up against that. And that's often what happens. You don't want to be doing this, but you just keep on doing it. So there's that conflict. And then so it's absolutely finding a different way that's going to serve you better, and creating that new way through beliefs, subconscious beliefs and perceptions, sharing them with the subconscious mind, so that now the program, instead of butting up, is actually aligning with where you're wanting to go. So it actually becomes enhancing. Instead of conflicting or limiting, you've now got it serving you and actually helping push you towards that way of behaving that you're wanting. So it really serves you. It goes beyond even affirmations or willpower. It's really vastly different than that. It really helps you to gain traction in where and how you're wanting to be in life.
Yeah. So what is helping you again? Was it the subconscious mind? Once you kind of put the light of awareness, you're seeing it, and I'm not sure what you're doing with it at that. What the other process?
Point. Yeah. So consciously you identify what you're not wanting, what's not serving you anymore, and then consciously you're deciding how you want it to be instead. Okay. So you're really figuring out, well, how could that be different? How could I be doing that differently? Then you're sharing that new belief or new perception, that new way. You're going to share that with your subconscious part of the mind, using one of the Psyhc-K processes for change. So these Psyhc-K processes we call them balances, and we learn those in the work. You can learn those in the workshop. You use one of those processes to share that with the subconscious mind, so that it's like editing a computer. You've got the old file of, I'm going to, I want to smoke, and this is the old file. I'm smoking, and then you figure out the new software is going to be, I'm really calm as just breathing fresh air and free and whatever. So you're sharing this new knowledge with the subconscious mind, and then you're editing that file. So you're editing the I am a smoker too, I'm free, I love fresh air, so that the natural default belief and perceptions that start rolling forth from the subconscious mind are now these new programs. And then we take action from that. So these new ways evolve forward.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's something, the reason I'm very curious about it, because there's patterns in my life. I've done a lot of work on them, but a lot of them still come back, come back up. And I've done different processes of looking at the beliefs and doing something similar. But still, it's like when they kind of come back up and you don't want that behavior or whatever it is, then what I notice with myself, I can start spiritualizing it or rationalizing or, these sort of things, so that I don't want to deal with the disappointment. So it's another sort of coping mechanism, that becomes part of that whole thing.
It's its own story, isn't it? And I know exactly what you're talking about. You consciously and you're growing yourself and evolving yourself, and you're wanting to be this way in the world, like patience. I really wanted to be this patient person, and I just kept on hitting up against this frustration and impatience. And then I'd judge myself every time I was impatient. Not only was I conflicting with my patient wish, I was judging the impatience as a bad thing. So it had this snowball effect of frustration, really, because I was wanting to be this, and I just kept on not being able to attain that. So absolutely, Psyhc-K, the processes and utilising those processes help you change that default habitual behaviour. And that's why I got into it. I had done so much other work in my life, and really was at a point of frustration. I'd really given it a good go. I'd really had my own float tank, played subliminal tapes. I was really invested in creating change, did my affirmations, did a whole lot of other modalities that were out there. And I found I was getting change, but I was still butting up against these core things that were really frustrating me. And I actually met Bruce Lipton, and he said to me, Rosie, I've done this thing called Psyhc-K, and he's, as you know, he's a cell biologist who's very visible in the world, talking about cell biology and the influence of beliefs on our physicality. Mm-hmm. So I really respected him for him to say to me that this was a good thing to do. I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And I think I shared with you the simplicity of it really challenged me, because I was used to very complicated ways of change. So, but I was pretty committed to giving it a go, and it was really the proof of it moving forward that sold me on Psyhc-K. So now it's a daily practice. I live and breathe Psyhc-K. It just helps me in my daily life all the time. Whenever I'm meeting resistance within myself or externally, I just come back to the really simple processes and go, well, how could it be different, and how could I create a difference with that? And off I go.
Yeah. I'm curious to know how if someone came to you and they said, I know there's something there, but I just sort of feel numb to I'm in a very neutral place, and but there feels like there's something not right with where I'm at. How would you? Well, I guess for that person, I don't know if they would come to Psyhc-K if they're in that space, or maybe they would.
Yeah, I've had people. Certainly, I've had people who have been in that space. Like they know there's not something right, but they're not sure what it is. Yeah, mm-hmm. And you can meet people at that perception point as well. Again, you could just say, well, is this serving you to be neutral and numb, or is mm-hmm. there a different state that you would rather embrace? Is there a different way of being that you would like to experience? Mm. And then you just start there. So just meeting people where they are, just meeting yourself where you are, really, and start. Yeah. It kind of evolves through itself anyway. It's a bit like I use an analogy of a pond that's full of debris, mm-hmm. Which is what our life, we accrue all this stuff through life, and especially the early years, and we might identify the big log in the middle of the pond that we want to get rid of, that impatience for me, that I really want to get rid of that log. Okay, we do that with Psyhc-K, and then all of a sudden, once we've moved the big log, actually underneath the big log there's this other stuff. And then we can use the same processes to clear the debris that's been under the log, until the pond's more as we would like it to be.
Yeah, it's like I like the analogy of putting on a little light in a dark room, and now you see all of the mess. And, yeah.
Yeah, and then you see the room's not a room but a warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Ron, I think you had a question.
Yeah, Rosie, so a while ago I did a fast.
Yes.
I was initially going to go for 3 days, but I did a muscle test and it said continue.
Okay.
So I went on, and when it got to the day that it said I was going to stop at, something happened in the body. What's this intelligence in the body that seems to know? So the
I think, innate wisdom of our physicality. I guess, as you said, the subconscious mind governs our physicality, so it runs it. So I don't use muscle testing that way. I just use it as a communication tool. So yes, no, true, false kind of thing. But certainly other forms of kinesiology use muscle testing to do that sort of stuff. I've learnt muscle testing in different forms of kinesiology to do what you were doing. And it is an innate wisdom in the physicality. There is an innate, our subconscious governs our physicality, so it does have a wisdom around that. I would go more upstream for myself. So if I was wanting to know whether I should eat a certain food or whether something was good for me, I probably wouldn't muscle test that. I would rather create a belief that all food was good for me. Do you know what I mean? So break it further up. So I would rather create the subconscious beliefs and perceptions that are going to really help support me going forward than rely on muscle testing to tell me more about my body. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but certainly there's an innate wisdom of how the body is running. But that changes all the time too, Ran, as we evolve and change, and our body changes too. So what can be true at one point might not be true next time you fast. It might not be the same. So just stay neutral and curious. Have no expectations. Yeah, because we're changing.
Yes. One of the amazing things that I loved on the course was the asking of permission.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, this is just, as I said, accessing the gateway, making the gatekeeper, accessing that gatekeeper of the superconscious mind, making sure that, we're permitted to change that belief that's going to have an impact on our life. We don't want to just think that we consciously know what's good for us, because I think I think there's probably very few people that haven't had the situation where we thought something was going to be good for us and maybe wasn't as good as what we thought it was going to be. So it's nice to get that sign off. In fact, I would say it's vital to get that sign off from the superconscious mind, the gatekeeper. And we call that a permission protocol in Psyhc-K. So we're always going to get a permission, to move forwards.
And also, you can do Psyhc-K with somebody who's not even in the room. Can we start from there with asking permission, and then where do you go from there?
So yes, we in the advanced integration workshop and in the so there are 2 workshops you can do. The first workshop that you would learn Psyhc-K in is a basic workshop where you learn how to do it with yourself and others in person. And then if you're wanting to do it what we call in surrogation, or on behalf of somebody, or say if I wanted to do a session with you, Ran, and you're not in the same room as me, and I'm going to help facilitate you through a session, then we do something called surrogation, which enables me to do it on the muscle testing on your behalf. Yeah. And there's a specific permission protocol that we learn to set that up. And then we can do the Psyhc-K processes on behalf of somebody, or we can do a session remotely, and whereas you would still do all the processes and I would just facilitate you through them, guide you through them. Yeah. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? There's a bit of research on the Psyhc-K International website. There's under resources, there's a bit of research there that Rob Williams and Jeff Fannin did. That's worth having a look at. Really fun.
So we have a question, our first question from Lydia in Brooklyn, New York. Yep. So Lydia asks, for someone who is unable to fall asleep for 3 to 5 hours after being in bed, seems because of an overactive mind, how do you change that process?
Yeah, perfect. So, with Psyhc-K, we don't make any claims that we're going to change or fix anything physically or mentally. We're not curing a disease or curing a condition. What we would do is look at the beliefs and perceptions that are governing that behaviour. So I would meet Lydia and say, well, how do you want things to be instead? So instead of this not sleeping for 3 to 5 hours, how do you want to be? How do you want to believe things to be? And she might say, I want to fall asleep easily straight away. We would create that belief and share that with the subconscious mind using one of the processes. If there was stress around sleeping, we could transform the perception of the stress around not sleeping. And again, share that new state of calm, peace and non-attachment with the subconscious mind. Then we could I would keep asking her after everything we share with the subconscious mind, is there anything else we need to believe? It might mean there might be another thing. I'm digging stuff up from other people that have had sleeping issues. So I'm using, I guess, a little bit of experience and examples of real case studies that, I need to believe that I'm going to get everything done tomorrow, because some people have this monkey mind that's going through everything they need to do the next day.
Yeah.
Or I might need to believe that I'm safe when I'm asleep. I've had people feel like they're just, if they go to sleep, something bad's going to happen. So they need this feeling of safety when they sleep. They might need to believe that I'm going to hear my children if they need me when I'm asleep. I've had young mums who don't sleep because they're on high alert with maybe children's needs. So we just cover off anything that our partner needs to believe, and we help them share that with their subconscious mind so that they're now able to live from this new state. Yeah, and then we just see if the 3D reality changes. So after we've done that session on sleep, let's see now how it's going. Let's maybe take some action. I might say to her, what's something new you can do to help activate this new potential? And then she might take a new action step of, leaving the phone outside of the room or some small action, and then just see how we're going moving forward. And she will notice if something's changed or not. So, yeah. So, and sometimes one session's all it takes, and sometimes maybe, it helps, but so, I'm getting it a little bit better now, but I'm still waking up at 2:00 in the morning, or there might be, it's better, but, and then, if it's better, but then maybe another session down the track just to cover off other things that might still be in the way might help. That's generally how we do it. If it was a session. Otherwise, she could go to a workshop, learn how to do it with herself, and just keep doing it until she's created that change. Yeah. So there's 2 different ways you could do that, really. See a facilitator for a session or do a workshop. Yeah.
Lydia says, thank you.
Pleasure.
So that's really interesting. My question is, so if you have the thought, or if you're saying to yourself or sharing to people every day, I'm not able to sleep, another day without sleeping, I just can't sleep. Is that in some way telling the superconscious mind?
The subconscious mind. Yeah.
Oh no. Well, what I'm saying is that if the superconscious mind has like the power to evoke change in some way, does it does it know that this is not what you want? So is it, in a way, are you attracting, with the help of the superconscious mind, that which you don't want because you're speaking it out,
you're kind of you're telling the environment what you're wanting, aren't you? You're speaking. You really. It's good to listen to our self-talk and to our talk to other people, because it's the vibration we're putting out. It's what we're stating what we want. You know, I don't sleep well. Okay, I don't sleep well. We'll give you more of that.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, if we really start, you know, through repetition, we're affecting the subconscious mind. You know, I don't sleep well. I don't sleep well. I don't sleep well. So we're forcing that into the subconscious mind and making it even more habitual, like a negative affirmation. You know, so a nocebo effect instead of the placebo effect. We're really kind of forcing a negative behaviour. So yeah, I think it's good to get really aware of our self-talk and what's coming out of our mouth, and that will give us a really good signpost of what our subconscious beliefs already are. So that will kind of tell us what we're believing because we're speaking them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems to be even woven into the culture. You know, this way that we communicate and bond with each other, even though it breeds things that we really don't want, like, you know, like negative things, but we talk in this way, you know, to feel like we belong, or, you know, it's to feel comfortable in the group.
It's like building rapport in a funny sort of way, isn't it? It's like we want to be, you know, everybody feel at ease, and it's this natural human conditioning to be in rapport with the people around us. I agree. I've had conversations with friends that, you know, you just listen to a conversation for 2 to 5 minutes, and that's when the I don't like this and the I don't want that tends to come in. It's just a cultural belief that we focus on the negatives. It would be really nice to switch that around and be part of the movement towards let's have a conversation about everything that we're really liking about the world. Let's have a conversation about everything that I'm wanting to achieve and, you know, that I'm grateful for. And, yeah, it'd be really nice to change the cultural way that we're talking and communicating. Really cool.
Yeah. Maybe we could bring Psyhc-K to the news media.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I'd love to do that. The news media, politicians maybe. Yeah, I think top down, you know, management and businesses, and it'd be really good to change those mindsets.
Yeah.
One of the wonderful things is that you create groups of people who can contact with each other and learn from each other. And like you said, we can talk about what we really want and creating a world. How important is that nowadays, Rosie?
I think super important. After the last couple of years, there was a lot of generalized fear, I think, you know, of the unknown. And, you know, we kind of like the known. We like what's comfortable, but especially the subconscious mind loves what's familiar, loves what's habitual, loves what's comfortable, because that's how it is. So I think in Psyhc-K, obviously, we make friends with change. So most people who've done Psyhc-K are, I guess, coped a little bit better in that environment, because just through the Psyhc-K processes, we're more whole-brained around change in itself. Whereas a lot of people haven't stepped into that comfort zone of being okay and more adaptable with change. So I think it's even more important now. I think Psyhc-K is really coming into its own as a key ingredient for life. I think most people need something like this to help them move past surviving to actually engaging in living, engaging in positive direction, positive self-talk, positive ways forward. Instead of just being on a treadmill.
I have a question here from Robin in London. He says, could a human being reverse deafness, blindness, or heal themselves from any illness or ailment?
Good question. I guess it depends on your belief system. So I've got a pretty rock solid belief in myself, in my body's ability to heal itself, but not everybody's got that belief system. So I think we're limited by our beliefs is what I would answer. And then I would also add to that, if you're wanting to change something that the collective thinks is impossible, you're not just struggling with your own beliefs, you're struggling with a collective belief as well. So if you're wanting to change something that a lot of other people say is impossible, then I'd probably just try to get into my own beliefs and get my own beliefs rock solid, and maybe keep it quiet about what I'm trying to do, because you don't want to keep butting up against that negative thought form all the time. Is that making sense? Yeah. So I think we can achieve, I would really get active in looking at what other people have been able to achieve in their lives. Yeah, that life is full and history is full of miraculous things that people are doing. So it is possible. And if one person can do it, they're showing us the truth that it's possible to do. So I would start searching and looking for the miracles that people have been able to achieve. I could call them miracles. Every day is a miracle. But look at what people are achieving, because they're showing us the truth of what's possible. And it's only our belief. We're limited really by our own beliefs and perceptions. And the collective can have an impact on it. Yeah.
One of the amazing things that when I was on the course with you, we went out on the final day. It was you, myself, and Stephen.
Yes.
And what we did was talk about the miraculous and the fantastic, and we have these, we're nowhere near what is possible.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's about opening our mind to, I guess, what I'm trying to say, I think, is that we're probably nowhere near what we're capable of doing as human beings.
I agree with you. I just think even in the 3 years that we haven't seen each other on, and just experiencing more and more of what we can do just pushing my personal limits and really experiencing change within myself is exciting, because who knows in 5 years what I'll be doing. It's just keeping on exploring and keeping on, just what else is there that we can be doing? And I agree with you. We don't even know what's possible. I do read a lot. I read a lot and watch a lot of podcasts of what other cultures are doing in the world that we don't hear maybe in mainstream news. But people are doing amazing things out there in the world, and if they can do it, we can do it, right? So, yeah, it's just freeing ourselves from our own mind. And I think that's Rob Williams's catchphrase, free your mind, Psyhc-K. I think that's perfect. It's the absolute perfect definition of Psyhc-K. It's freeing the mind of our own limitations. Yeah.
And I think that's what leaving the course with you was, that we left with excitement.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can do other things. You may go away contented and happy, but with this one, we went away excited. What's possible? What can we test? What processes can we do? Yeah. And how do you feel when you see students, I don't know if you call them students, come away with that feeling, even yourself?
Yeah, I love it. It's I think it's life, isn't it? I think that's how life is meant to be. I think we're meant to be excited and curious and optimistic and, growing, evolving. I think that's life. That is life, the energy of life. And I think a lot of, I think before Psyhc-K, maybe I wasn't engaged in life as much. I was maybe existing to a certain point. But I think just using these processes to create change and move forward and challenge myself, and it just seems so organic. It seems like such a better definition of living is really engaging, really getting rid of the fear, or transforming that fear to a different state so that we're not limited by these things that stop us from experiencing life fully. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love seeing other people. I love sharing it with other people. I think you felt that, Ran. I was just like, it's just every workshop is wonderful for me because it is sharing. It's absolutely sharing that potential. And if I can see everybody leaving that with that excitement and readiness to move forward, then I can't ask for anything better than that, really. That's good.
So you mentioned before that people are creatures of habit, and I could see it in myself, like it's part of the like survival mechanism, and in some people's it might be more heightened than others, dependent on what your history was and what you went through in the developmental stage. Can one turn for me, like I've done different healing practices or even meditation, and at times it gets sucked into this sort of routine survivalistic way of being where it kind of loses the freshness of it. Do you see that do people that you work with or yourself, have you ever come against that, and how do you what do you do?
Yeah, I love meditation. That's one of my. I love getting into the quiet space. I love just being receptive. I think meditation's an awesome thing to do, but it's not necessarily the best way of sharing information with the subconscious mind. So it's more of a practice, which is great. I never get bored with Psyhc-K. I never get to that, like, oh, this is that routine thing that's just holding me safe in the world. For me, Psyhc-K is it's pulling me forward to where I want to go. So it's always fresh. It's always new, because what I'm dealing with is new. So it's, I guess, a good analogy would be that, version 1 of Rosie's doing her Psyhc-K with version 1 of Rosie's stuff in the world. Mm-hmm. But then we evolve to a different way of being through that process. So I'm now a different version of myself experiencing life in a different way. Mm. So now I get to see new things and go, oh, I hadn't seen that before, and now I want to play with that and I want to move this along. So then I become version 3. So there's always this kind of evolution that's happening, rather than just, as you say, kind of just keeping me safe in the world here.
Yeah,
it's not so much that keeping me safe. It's keeping me evolving, keeping me moving, keeping me experiencing. But then I still do my meditation and I still do my other practices for different purposes. I think meditation is so good at calming the system and bringing me back to center and being able to be receptive. So I use that for a different purpose maybe. But then maybe the insights I gain from my meditative practices, then I go, oh, I might share that with the subconscious mind, so I'm not meditating on that again tomorrow. So it's like I might shift that up a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit about the just like if you were going through a Psyhc-K session with someone, is part of it, is the practitioner, do you have your own unique way of doing it with someone in certain tools, or is it more of a universal way of approaching it?
Yeah, lovely. We don't call ourselves practitioners, we call ourselves facilitators, because we're not. It's a really nice distinction, because a practitioner is assuming that you're the expert, and a facilitator, we're facilitating the expert. So we call them our partner. Our partner's the expert in their life. Yeah, we're just facilitating. Of course, we're all unique. We've all got our own way of asking a question or our own different energy, but the processes are done the same universally. And that's, it's because there's kind of a thought form around everything that happens in life. So if people are playing the piano, they'll play it differently, but the piano stays the piano. So we want the processes to stay the same because it builds in the efficacy, it builds in the thought form around those processes so they can work well every time. And that's really important for the people that are being facilitated, the partners, to experience that. So that you're holding that expectation each time that it's going to be the same. And of course, it's going to be unique depending on the facilitator. So I tend to be, I have a very basic process that I work through. I keep it super simple because I guess because I was so complicated coming in that I really have embraced the more simple protocols, the principles of simplicity sing to me now. So I like to keep it simple, and I find that it works. It's just a really nice, elegant way of facilitating. We teach Psyhc-K the same around the world. So I think there are 35 instructors around the world, and we teach it the same. So that's nice in itself. And yet every instructor obviously has their different personality and different experiences that they're going to bring to the group. Yeah.
And do you offer like one-on-one sessions, or is it just mainly groups?
I do offer one-to-one sessions. I don't do. Obviously, a lot of my time is spent teaching, so teaching the basic and the other workshops. So I do have other people I can recommend for the one-on-one sessions as well. You know, people that I've taught. If people want it in person, and I've taught people in those cities, I'm really happy to give recommendations of people that I know who live locally. More than happy to recommend people. There are preferred facilitators on Psyhc-K International. There's a list of facilitators that have all gone and done the master facilitation workshop also. So they know how to do online sessions with people. So, yeah, absolutely, the sessions are about one-to-one sessions are available, and learning how to do it for yourself is also available. So it just depends what resonates with people, whether they want to learn. For me, it's such an amazing tool to have in your life kit. It's I just think it's great to do the workshop. For me, it was just a no-brainer. But other people are really happy just to be facilitated, and that works really well for them too. So just listen in to yourself and see what feels best for you. Some people just leap into a workshop without even have done no session, so they come in not knowing what to expect, and other people might have done a session with somebody first before they then go, I want to learn how to do this myself. And so there's no right or wrong. It's whatever happens. It's fine.
And the workshops, are those usually in person, or do you offer online? And is it better to do it in person? Do you get the same benefits if you're doing it online?
Yeah, good questions. You know, through COVID, we adapted and we created an online workshop. Before that, they were only ever taught in person because they are quite an experiential workshop. The in-person gives you the ability to facilitate with yourself and with other people, whereas the online, you only have the ability to work or facilitate with yourself, because we can't teach you how to facilitate with other people online. So there's that distinction between the two. So basically online, really just working with yourself, which serves a lot of people. A lot of people just want to be able to do it with themselves. But then, you know, if you've got family members you're wanting to work with, or children you're wanting to work with, maybe the in-person is going to be better for you, because then when you go home, you can work with your husband, you can facilitate with your husband, wife, children, friends, family as well. So I guess, again, just checking in with yourself, manage your expectations of what you're wanting from Psyhc-K. If it's just a personal tool, then the online might fit you perfectly. If it's something that you're going to be doing with other people as well, maybe consider that in person. the other thing to consider is that after the basic workshop, there is an advanced workshop, and after the advanced, there's something called the Divine Integration Retreat, which is a beautiful retreat to really facilitate with your own experience of divinity, and also a health and wellbeing program. And those need to be done after the in-person. So if you feel like you're going to want to take your Psyhc-K journey further, then maybe the in-person workshop is going to be the one that you choose. So they're the things to consider. There's no right or wrong. It's all great. It's just really managing people's expectations of what they're wanting to get out of, what they're wanting to utilize Psyhc-K with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ron asked me to remind me to ask you, because I was sharing with him the other day that I started doing the Ho'oponopono prayer.
Yeah, Ho'oponopono. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I did it years ago, but I was just reminded of it again, and I started doing it again. And he asked me to ask you about that, to bring that, because I think he learned it from you. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just one of the things I do in life too. I love it. Is that one of the old Huna practices? It's just a beautiful way of making peace with something. And then often, once I've done the Ho'oponopono with a situation, I get so many ideas for balancing and changing my beliefs and perceptions, because just by being sorry, asking for forgiveness, loving, and it changes the whole energy around a situation, so that your perception of that situation changes a little, and you can see beyond your taking it personally, if you like. Exactly. So you can see beyond that, and then you can go, oh, it's actually about this. And from there, I can create, 5 different new beliefs that really help me in that situation going forward. Yeah, it's a beautiful practice.
Yeah. I just started. Yeah, I have noticed that exactly what you mentioned. It's just a whole new perspective about the situation. And now I'm doing it all the time when something comes up, that I notice a lot of it's like reoccurring things, and like, I'll use this prayer. You just gotta.
Yeah. So as you say, it's the reoccurring thing. So for me, I guess that's why it's such a good, once I see that, then I can change it, and then it doesn't become the reoccurring thing anymore. Because you're changing the underpinning beliefs and perceptions that are creating the perceptual filters. So they're creating the filters that are letting you see it in a certain way. Yeah, it's so much fun. Life's fun.
Really powerful, and it's a coincidence, I guess. Ade told me about this prayer 2 weeks ago, and I thought, oh, Ade, that's what Rosie showed me. Yeah, and we're coming to the show.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, nice stuff.
And another thing about the personal in-group courses was that what I found was the working together of practicing, just you and your friends that you had made, doing them in the moment while you were there. So you're walking around and you're watching us and you're seeing us practice these things. Oh, let's try this or try that. And there were some remarkable things that have occurred. I'm sure you've seen some amazing things while you've been on the course.
Just seen, I have. I've seen some miraculous things happen in workshops. I've had a lady in a wheelchair that was walking on day 3. So there's sometimes miraculous stuff can happen within those 3 days. But little miracles are just as profound as big ones, So even just a mindset change that's going to totally change your life. Something you're just having a belief, instead of thinking that you're not lovable too, on day 3 being lovable, that's going to have profound changes moving forward. So it's not even about being able to get out of a wheelchair, but it's these things that are seemingly small but have these massive ripples going forward that change nearly every aspect of our lives. For me, one of the most profound beliefs that I changed for myself was that I'm a good person, because I think I grew up thinking I wasn't, and then I spent a lot of my life having to act out or trying to prove that I was, because I had this innate belief that I wasn't a good person. So just changing that belief just took so much pressure off having to prove all the time the worthiness of being. So just something very small can have this really big change moving forward. Yeah, little miracles.
Yeah, it's these tiny things sometimes which are underlying, which clears up a whole ream of things that we just don't realise. It's this tiny little belief and idea that has been in the program for a long time, that's been running, and we're not even aware it's been running.
Yeah. So it's just been rubbing up against you all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that one too, the not good enough, or and it, so I'll do this and that, and try to be good enough, but it's never ending, because so something comes up, or that oh, I didn't do that, and that didn't work. Oh, I'm not good enough.
Yeah, just triggers it again. Triggers
Yeah.
that I'm not good enough. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's that freight train of the subconscious mind just bulldozing its way through, and the conscious mind just not having the same capacity to turn it around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah.
Rosie, at the moment I'm working with nursery school children who are aged 3 and 4, and they all love to draw. Let's draw, they draw, they draw, they draw. But something happens to them maybe in about 3 years, and some of them are going to learn I'm no good at drawing. And I think I got that, in school at probably age of 11, love to draw, and one day I see someone else and my stick figures are probably, and I've implanted this thing in my mind, and it's there for 30 years that you can't draw. When we're working with young children, how can we protect them against the testing that they're going to see in school or society, that they're going to be judged against someone else?
Yeah, good questions. I think if I had my time again, I would have maybe done things a little differently with my children, in terms of just creating more positive self-talk, and just reinforcing that it's your drawing is unique to you, and be happy with your drawing and be happy with their drawing too. So it's not this comparison based grading that we get from society and schools. Yeah, so really just appreciate everybody's talents and unique gifts. So I think that's one way we can do it, just personally, on a personal level, if you're interacting with kids, just to reinforce those messages as best we can. And then hopefully that will have that ripple effect within their society too. Yeah.
Using that, what changes can we make in the system as it is, in society, in schooling, in this grading, and what can we do?
I think we can be the change. Yeah. So we can live and be the change. I think we underestimate how much we can impact just by being who we are, and being centered and authentic with how we are in the world. I think that makes a massive difference. People do comment on that sometimes. I'll say, oh, I've noticed this, and it does have an impact, because it then gets other people thinking the same way. Or how do you manage to always talk about things in that way? Oh, I've done this work and I've done this. Okay, then they can step into that arena as well. So I think just being authentic and being the change is the biggest thing that we can do. We have other protocols in Psyhc-K that we do. We do just a protocol that we can use to try to help global evolution as well. That's not outcome based. It's not got an agenda. I think meditating is really good too. There's some really good global meditations that are around. There's a beautiful Power of Eight by Lynn Taggart that I really quite like as well, whereas a group of 8 people get together and really try to mindfully manifest a way of thinking. So I think that can be really powerful. So I think there's some really good ways, and I think just by us doing what we're doing and having a really positive chat about how things can be makes a big difference as well. So, yeah, do what we can do.
It's when we're being the change, and then the understanding that we are more extraordinary than we ever thought. Just being yourself is amazing.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah, you said it perfectly.
Upon that, I've got another question from Robin, and
yes.
Robin is working on a sci-fi movie, and your name has been coming up over the last few weeks. So I said, I'll ask Rosie in this question. Let me just find the question. And I guess it goes into the beliefs that we have. Do humans have the ability to teleport an inanimate object from one place to another?
Interesting. I think I'm maybe, I don't know, is my answer. I don't know. I don't teleport or move objects from one place to another, but I know I have looked at certain Russian studies that do that. So I think my personal belief is that I think, yes, we've got the potential to do that. But again, I think that collective belief holds us back maybe from doing it. Yeah, but certainly there's some really nice Russian studies that he could look at that I can try to dig out and send you. I studied that about 3 or 4 years ago. I was interested in that too. But yes, I think certainly it's being done. Is it Sufi masters can teleport from space to space as well? Like, they'll be walking along and then they disappear and reappear 15 miles down the road. I think there's well documented studies on that too. So
yeah, there's a Sufi master that I think there's some documentation. Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba was said to be able to he's a Senegalese Sufi master. I think he died in early 1920, something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but the cultural, being authentic.
Yes.
So it seems to be one of the few times that I experience it in my life, feels very freeing and very like in touch with who I am, like my soul. But then there is a moment where I don't know what it is, where something happens. Okay, I'll say it like this. It feels like I've come out of my shell. I feel like I can breathe. I'm just saying how I feel. It's feeling the emotions and sharing it with people. And then I don't know what triggers it, but then there's a feeling of feeling frozen back in the shell and feeling very protective and using those cultural norms now, this is just the way, this is the comfort way of being. Yeah. I don't know, if that is, really works, I have to follow these steps. And it's such part of the program. I'm not consciously necessarily realizing that I'm relying or in this program way of being, but there is some feeling that I'm betraying myself, that something inside of me, my gut is like, no, this is not right. So there is that sort of conflict a lot of times going on within. So I guess the question is, how do you sustain that? How do you keep being authentic? You know, like how do you keep nourishing that?
So I think I haven't mastered that yet. Is the first thing I need to say. Is I think we're working maybe towards that being at oneness, that again, coming back to Rob Williams, who's the originator of Psyhc-K, it's the illusion of separation that we kind of buy into. We have this illusion that we're separate and that we're different and that we're apart from nature and apart from each other. And I think that's when we come back to our shell, or we come back to that separateness. Whereas when we're authentic, we're really experiencing that flow and that oneness, and it's where we kind of want to be. You've hit the mark beautifully. We feel amazing. We feel so natural, and yet we then go back into this illusion of separation. My answer is, whenever I come back into that illusion of separation, I get curious and look at what are the beliefs and perceptions in this situation that pulled me back. And that's why Psyhc-K is such a daily practice for me. It's helping me move more and more towards that state of being in authenticity and oneness most of the time. So, yeah, I think just really identifying what just happened there, what pulled me back. And as you work with yourself more and more, you get better at being aware of when you're pulling back into that separateness, the shell.
Yeah.
Does that help?
It does a lot. And I think I think we need something. We need to pause, to stop, and to look, or else it seems, at least in my case, the program it just is on automatic, so it just starts running. If there's nothing there to look and to see, then I feel like I fall back to this program way of being, and then it the more I'm in that way, it feels scarier to jump out of it, to come out of the comfort zone. I think it seems like part of the work, or trying something new, is requires stepping out of the comfort zone, and I guess that's why having facilitators and being in a group and doing it with other people is really helpful, because you provide this sort of safety and support with each other.
And I think where we have this human need to belong, and I think that's part of that scariness of moving beyond that comfort zone. So, if I move beyond this, I'm going to stand out. And in Australia, there's this whole cultural beliefs that if I stand out, I'm going to not be accepted, because it's not good to stand out. In Australia, there's this kind of judgment around people who are trying to be too big for their boots. There's
a name for it, right? What is the phrase?
Yeah, tall poppy syndrome. Yeah. Tall poppy syndrome in Australia. So I think you have these cultural beliefs that you are affecting you, even though you're not consciously aware of it. So they're holding you in a certain way of being. And we've been encultured heavily for the first 7 years of our life. Our brainwave state is beyond even hypnotherapy, really. So it's the first 2 years we've got no conscious filter. So we're really encultured to behave in a certain way, to belong and to be deemed acceptable. And some of those things are rational and reasonable. Some of those things, you want most people in the world to be behaving in a certain way so that we all get on as a collective. But some of those things are cultural and based on a whole lot of history that's not really necessary anymore, So different programs growing up, I've heard so many different things. What will the neighbours think? is a program, or you've got to be a good, good girl means this. Who defines a good girl? Our society defines a good girl. Well, a good girl back in history was whole different to now. It's a good girl kind of thing. So it's not just our own beliefs; it's the cultural environment that we belong in that also define these beliefs and perceptions that we just take on like a sponge. There's kind of no conscious filter around those things. So as we move into authenticity and our authentic way of being, a lot of those cultural things don't fit that. But there's this deep need to belong, to survive, that brings us back to that shell. So because to the subconscious mind, that's life-threatening. If we move beyond that, I'm going to die, because it was that kind of belief that was formed. Do you know what I mean? So it's very scary to the subconscious mind. This is life-threatening to move beyond that. So we need to change the subconscious state to it's okay to move beyond that. I'm safe moving beyond that. I still belong when I move beyond that. So we need all these supportive beliefs that we can share with the subconscious to help us move beyond that and safely and say it safely to our subconscious mind. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And it's really deep, like how deep it like runs within us and in our culture and
and how simple we can change it. I think that's what blew me away, was that yes, it runs deep, and it's when we understand it, we can really understand how hooked we are into a certain way of being. But it's also very simple to move beyond that.
You see, when you say it's simple, in my mind, it's like, yeah, but it's not going to work for me. It's very complicated. I'm so like, I wish I was like Rosie. It's like simple, like it was simple. It worked for her, but it's not going to work for me. Automatic. Like I am automatically aware of that, and I can feel it in my diaphragm. It's just like, don't even go there because you're going to disappoint yourself.
I love it, and people show up. So it's so much of the phone calls I get is this going to work for me? And it might work for other people. It's because that's also an ingrained belief. Yeah. So you're not Robinson Crusoe. Yeah. You're not alone. You're not alone.
And it's scary though, because then what would I be without that?
Yeah. Yes. Beautiful question. Yeah. What would you be? Yeah. That's a really good question. Yeah. Yeah. How would society be without that?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's as I tell Ron sometimes, that life could be, it seems more simple than it is, but we've seemed to complicate the hell out of things. Everything is very difficult, very complicated. And Ron would sometimes say, well, is it really? Like, do you realize what you're saying? And then when I question it and look at it, is it really true? Is that really true? Or is it just something that I've believed in?
Yeah.
But then it's scary because it's like I've devoted so much time. I've devoted my whole life to this.
Well, we all have. It's funny. It's funny on some of the stuff that I've changed, some of the beliefs and perceptions I've changed. Exactly like that. I've devoted 6 years of study to this, and now I've just leapt over to here. It's like, what on earth? But it's from one side of the tunnel, it looks so hard and so vast. But looking back at the tunnel, it's just been a skip and a jump. So I think again, it's that perspective on that other side of change. Looking back, it's like, oh, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. But looking towards the change, it's this amazing leap of faith that has to happen almost to get us to that point. Yeah.
It's almost as like we were buried, like something heavy has fallen on top of us, and there's someone like within the distances. If you just yell help, they can help you, but it's like, no, I can't show this person that I need to. Why am I being squished? Like, I should be able to do it. And then like finally you yell help, and someone's they take it off, and there's this relief. But it's not even the relief of having the thing taken off. The relief was just being able to say it, what you truly felt.
Yeah
Getting
ourselves to that point, getting ourselves out of our own way.
I remember I had devoted 40 years to being no good at art. I had devoted a lifetime to it. And I went back to, it was a class when I was maybe 11, and seeing my drawing next to somebody else's, I got this disbelief, and it stayed there. I carried it around like a nice warm jacket for many, many years. And, you got this idea, I can't draw, I can't do this, I can't do it, I'm no good at it. And this year, when I started to draw, just the joy of putting pencil to paper, not having to prove anything for good, just for the joy of it, you realize how much time you spend carrying around this baggage. A lot of times it's not even yours. And like we said, and when you do that, you have this sense of play. And I think on the courses that you were running, there was play. You said that as children, we have this sense of play. We have this unlimited work. There's no limit. We have this sense of play. And to bring, and the Psyhc-K, I guess, brings back that sense of play into being curious about, okay, what is possible? Is that really true? Is that correct? Or do I just think it?
And do I need to still do that? Is it serving me? Is it how I want it to be? I love it. All the stuff we're carrying around, and we're carrying it around like we're almost hugging it sometimes.
I think I created a badge for it. Don't get badge.
And how does that carrying that stuff around affect our health?
I would say in many ways. And if we knew what belief caused what physical symptom, then wow, we could have some fun with that. And we don't. So what we do is we just clear the limiting beliefs and perceptions and just notice how that changes our physicality. Certainly take action steps. I really try to look after my physical body the best way I can, because I value the vehicle. So obviously taking action is really good, but I think you need to, I think it's incredibly helpful to have the mind on board too, our mindset, really supporting ourselves as well.
So we are, just to let you know, we're at an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
We should probably I'll have to finish off in a little while. How are you guys going?
I will have to finish too. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would have liked to discuss?
No, I was really just coming in happy to have a chat and talk about what we're talking about. So
Rosi, thank you very much. You probably heard your name being spoken over here in London over the last few weeks preparing for the show.
Lovely.
About it. And it's been an absolute pleasure to get in contact with you again and to speak with you. I find it always uplifting, always curious, always expanding the horizon. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a joy. Really nice to have met Ade also and to reconnect around. It's been beautiful. It's been lovely.
Yeah, I appreciate you very much, and just your energy and spending time here with us today is really been a pleasure. Where could people get in contact with you, or find workshops or?
Sure. I'm in Australia and I do workshops in Australia and in Denmark, Greece, France, in Europe. But there are 35 instructors. We teach the same material. What I would recommend people do is if they want to get in touch with me, absolutely. My website is Mindsalign, MINDSALIGN, and they'll find me there. Or they can go to Psyhc-K.com, which is the international Psyhc-K website. And that's got a list. There's a list there of facilitators, but there's also a list of where all the workshops are being run around the world. So if people are interested in having a workshop, that's a really good place to go to, because there's not just mine, but there's places in London, places in America where they can access the workshops in person. I do some online workshops, but as I said, it's check in with yourself about what you're wanting from Psyhc-K. And if an in-person one is going to suit you better, then find an instructor where you are that's going to where you are, or travel to a workshop can be fun sometimes too. But that's what I would recommend. There's the two avenues. Yeah, and if you want to reach out and email me, I'm really happy to answer emails, and I'm on WhatsApp. If you want to message me on WhatsApp, you'll find my number and my email super easily on my website, and I'm really happy to be contacted.
Great. And I'm really interested in finding a group or a facilitator or both here in New York. So if you happen to know of any specific ones, then that'd be great. I'll get in contact with you.
Shoot me an email and I will put you in contact with people. Really happy to do that. Really
thank you. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
So
Rosie,
thank you, folks.
You said that you've been reading. I know you've got a vast reading list of what you've been reading. Could you please send me any books you've been really excited about that you loved? And I would like to read them myself. And
done. You know me. I've got a list. I sent it through.
Okay, thank you very much.
Some good ones.
Thank you, Rosie.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you, everyone, all of our viewers, and until next time.
Yeah, perfect. See you.
Bye.
See you, Rosie.